Have you ever had the feeling that you're being watched? Have you ever heard disembodied voices coming from seemingly nowhere? Have you ever been touched by unseen hands? Have those that have crossed over tried to communicate with you, trying to give you messages for their loved ones from the other side? Are you ever awakened at night by the sound of footsteps that stop right by your bedside? And have you seen objects move on their own accord? No? I have. Welcome to a bonus episode of the Karma Files. This is Angie's true ghost story. Angie grew up in the San Leandro area in California. She was 9 years old and was having a very tough time. You see, Angie was hearing the voices of spirits, making predictions, and thinking that she was crazy. She knew she was different. She was a loner, the weird kid, the kid that the other kids didn't want to play with. The neighborhood where she lived was about 5 blocks from David E. Martin Elementary, the school she attended. She walked those 5 blocks to and from school every day. Between her home and the school was an abandoned, run-down church. One day, while walking to school, she started to hear voices, and the voices were coming from the church. She was so scared that she ran home and told her mother that she couldn't go to school because she wasn't feeling well. The next day, Angie knew that she couldn't keep up the story that she was sick and that she would have to go back to school. This meant she was going to have to walk by the creepy old church. Angie was petrified. She had no choice but to walk by the foreboding structure. The popular kids would walk to school on the other side of the street, the farthest from the church, and they wouldn't let Angie walk with them. Sometimes she would hear the whispers, and sometimes she wouldn't when she passed by. But when she did hear the chatter, it seemed to have an angry tone. A tone that sent a chill down little 9-year-old Angie's spine. She started to think maybe she was going crazy, and the voices weren't real. She felt so alone and had no one to confide in about her horrifying experiences. Every day, she would run as fast as she could past the old church and pray that she would not hear the whispers. One day after school, Angie was walking home. As she approached the church, she prepared herself to run as fast as she could to get past it. Home was on the other side, and she always felt such relief once she passed the dreaded chapel. Just as she was about to run, she noticed something strange. The church was eerily quiet. Perhaps too quiet. Then, out of nowhere, she felt something hit her leg. She looked across the street, and one of the popular boys was throwing rocks at her. Before she could react, she saw his arm raise, and she quickly ducked behind a bush that was on the church property. Suddenly, she felt something hit her head just above her eye. The rock had hit her. The next thing she remembers was total darkness. Then she started hearing it, the voices. It sounded like hundreds of people coming closer and closer. Louder and louder the voices became, but Angie couldn't move. Then she heard a very loud and angry woman say, "Get up!" Angie tried to move, but she couldn't. The woman became even more agitated and said even louder, "Get up!" Angie felt like she was surrounded by the throng of angry church people, the ones she had been hearing for months on her way to school. She became so petrified that she shot up and then noticed she was covered in blood. She felt a hand on her back pushing her, and she heard the angry woman say, "Run!" As she started running, she could hear the blood pumping out of her head. The angry throng of whisperers were chasing her. She felt like they wanted her to die and not reach her house. Angie ran the 4 blocks to her home and passed out on the lawn in front of her house. And again, darkness. She had passed out. The next thing she remembers is waking up in the hospital, and she was on her way to the operating room. The rock had dented her skull, and a surgeon was flown in to do surgery. Again, she hears the same angry woman's voice say, "Don't ever lay down again." Angie was in the hospital for 2 months following her surgery. After this horrifying experience, Angie suffered from night terrors for years. To this day, as an adult, Angie never did find out why those spirits at the church were so angry. But I think I might know what happened. I did some research on the church, and I found out that the building started out as a Protestant church called the Chapel at Camp Parks, which is an Army military intelligence facility, which was founded in 1874 in Dublin, California. In 1947, this church was purchased and moved to its present location in San Leandro, California. In 1961, the church became more universal in their beliefs and practices, and joined the United Church of Christ, a denomination committed to freedom and diversity in worship, outreach, and faith practices. Maybe the spirits of the Protestant parishioners from Camp Parks were angry that their church became a place of diversity that welcomes everyone, no matter what their beliefs. For whatever reason, Angie's experience was so terrifying that to this day, she cannot bring herself to go back to that old, creepy church. Are those angry parishioners still there? If they are, maybe they need to go to the light and mind their own karma. Lastly, what I find quite interesting is Angie happens to be my biological sister, and we did not know each other until we were adults. But some of my earliest memories was seeing spirits in church as well. I remember being so terrified. Do you believe that being sensitive to spirit is hereditary? I believe that it is. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Karma Files. As always, take what you need for your daydreams and leave what you don't for your nightmares. Sweet dreams. At times, my life can seem like the scariest of nightmares. Believer or skeptic, I know the veil is thin between us and those on the other side. Was that just the wind that slammed your doors shut? Were your eyes just playing tricks on you when you watched that shadow figure walk down your hallway? Where are those ominous noises that you hear right before your eyes close at night? The voices, the footsteps, the knocking. And are the eyes of your cat the only ones watching you sleep? Do you experience the paranormal? If you don't, maybe you're the ghost. This was a full moon bonus episode of the Mind Your Own Karma podcast called The Karma Files. If you enjoyed being terrified by my story, please haunt my DMs on Instagram or Facebook to let me know that you're dying for more. Do you have a ghost story to tell? You can send me your short story at mindyourownkarma@gmail.com. And if it gives me the chills, it may be featured on a future full moon episode. I'd like to personally welcome you to my nightmares. I think you're going to like it here.